Yorogobe Shonen, it's me, your not-so-favorite bad power skater on the internet. For today, I have an Avengers level threat of a character for you guys to enjoy.
That is an Avengers level threat.
I've been getting asked to do this guy for a good while now and thought it was finally time for me to pretty much relent to actually making this video. So welcome everyone to how far could Kumagawa from Medaka Box get in Dragon Ball. But before we truly start, you know the drill by now, it's time for your obligatory spoiler warning. Because nothing is more annoying than suddenly getting spoiled on major abilities and plot points of an anime you want to watch, at least that's my opinion. So please be aware that I will be talking about abilities and plot points that might spoil a bit of the franchise, so just know that if you do not want me to spoil anything at all for you, it's probably best to stop watching the video right now. And if you want to watch the show or read the source material first before continuing this video, please by all means do so. I actively encourage you guys to watch the shows I do content on yourselves anyway, so yeah, I would actually appreciate you watching the source material. So with that little warning out of the way, let's take a look at what kind of person Kumagawa actually is. Within his own franchise, Kumagawa is described as a quote-unquote born loser who failed at everything, who lost to everyone at everything, which in turn ended up making him pretty much stronger than everyone. He was always pretty negative, which makes sense since his in-universe mentality is minus and could hurt people as easily as you and I can make a sandwich at 3 AM because we have terrible sleep schedules. But in the case of Kumagawa, his need to destroy was as strong as a person's need to eat. He was the type that seriously contemplated killing every single human on the face of the planet, himself included, if he ever got a chance to do so. But budget Ria's Grammary did not see that as a challenge and actually felt kind of bad for him, so she tried talking to him, which was a mistake because Kumagawa is kind of a sociopath, just being honest there. In the case of Medaka, given her nature, she never once even thought that she could actually lose to Kumagawa, but surprise surprise, she couldn't actually defeat Kumagawa, so she was actually pushed into using her Perseus mode for the very first time during this fight. But after this battle, Kumagawa then transferred into class -13 of Hakoniwa Academy. But even there, he doesn't really understand or even try to understand other people, pretty much ignoring their feelings altogether, which makes sense with him being a minus and all. However, after eventually becoming reformed, he does turn more quote-unquote friendly. I don't want to call him a good guy because he is still kind of a cunt if I'm being honest, but he kind of joins the good guys in the end, I suppose. So as for abilities, right, Kumagawa really only has two abilities which are worth talking about in my opinion. A bit earlier in this video I mentioned that Kumagawa's mentality within the franchise is classified as minus. This relates into the two general types of abilities within the Medaka Box universe. People within the world of Medaka Box who possess special abilities are referred to as abnormals, and these abnormals are oftentimes classified into one of two categories, being pluses who have positive abilities and minuses which have negative abilities. I won't go into detail about what makes someone a plus or a minus, but a layman's explanation would be something along these lines. If pluses were in danger of becoming embodiments of their respective successes, then minuses were becoming embodiments of their respective defeats instead. They all had failings and hopelessness that isolated their hearts from other people, causing their abilities to be, classified as negative. But technically there are 6 classifications within the verse, these being pluses, minuses, specials, normals, not equals and stylists. And all of them do fall under the umbrella of abnormals. But in the case of Kumagawa, he is definitely a part of the minus type abnormals. In terms of his minus abilities, we have 2 of them to actually talk about. He has an ability called All Fiction and another ability called Bookmaker. But let's just start with All Fiction because that is probably the ability he is most often associated with. As a baseline, All Fiction allows him to deny aspects of reality, to turn anything into quote-unquote nothing. Because of this, he can, for example, just undo anything that has been damaged in his surroundings, and as a result of that, he also has no problems with being severely destructive and self-destructive in battle. However, he has stated that once he removes something with his minus, he cannot just return it as it has become fiction, thus the name All Fiction. So, for example, he removes a chair from existence, he cannot just say, oh, I want that chair back. it's gone forever. So this could be considered a downside of his ability if you want to look at it from that perspective. But normally his ability can even reverse his own death as well as the death of others, but he does admit that he doesn't have full control of his power, because unless he's careful, the entire world would just become nothing. He can very easily go too far if he does not heavily restrain himself whilst using the ability. And it should also be noted though that all fiction does seem to have a pretty big drawback within the Medaka Box universe itself. As far as I'm aware, it cannot erase another minus ability like itself. But this of course has zero effect in Dragon Ball, but I thought I would actually mention it here because, technically speaking, it is a drawback of the ability or weakness of the ability. So I did not think it would be fair to just omit that, because some people might, refer to it in the comments as a weakness why it might not work. However, during the plot of Medaka Box, Kumagawa does lose all fiction, but he also gets it back again, except this time it's heavily nerfed, but then his ability gets restored again to full power. Like, I'm sure I just pissed off that one diehard Medaka Box enjoyer with my very abridged explanation there, but it does kind of like depict how his ability's evolution went. But in the end, he just has it at full power again, so don't worry about that. But moving on to his second and original minus, we have Bookmaker. He swapped this ability for all fiction after ripping off Ajimu's face, but eventually regained the ability to use both Bookmaker and all fiction at the same time. But in layman's terms, Bookmaker essentially lowers the target's abilities down to Kumagawa's level. So body, spirit, technique, intellect, talent, you name it. All of these fall to match Kumagawa's. In order to use this ability, he does have to actually pierce a target with his screws though, so that can definitely be considered a downside of this ability. But we finally arrive at the funnest segment of this video. How would Kumagawa actually do in Dragon Ball? Now, this is obviously heavily based on my own opinion and how I perceive the way abilities work in and against Dragon Ball characters, but for me personally, it is pretty clear cut that Kumagawa can make it very far with his combination of lowering enemies down to his own level and just being able to alter reality. There is no real winning against that combination because, in theory of course, Kumagawa can just erase the existence of Ki from the world of Dragon Ball and just sweep the 99% of the characters who heavily rely on it during battle. But this is also probably where some of you will start talking about how Dragon Ball characters can just overpower his ability, and for my full opinion on that matter, please refer to the video which should be on screen right now. But to keep it short, I believe wholeheartedly that Dragon Ball characters can overcome abilities from Dragon Ball. Since most abilities in Dragon Ball are connected to Ki, it makes sense a stronger Ki can cancel them out. But please do remember that Kumagawa does not have Ki. Dragon Ball Ki does not exist in Medaka Box, so overpowering his weaker Ki with your stronger Ki is not really a factor since his ability does not even use Ki to begin with. But to be fair, Bookmaker will likely miss a lot of times due to his speed being lower than most Dragon Ball characters, but all fiction just prevents him from dying and he can just make anything he wants disappear. The only thing is that maybe Zeno could erase Kumagawa since his abilities seem to surpass Ki-based techniques like Akai, but I am going to be honest and say that I don't know who would win between Zeno's erasure and Kumagawa's all fiction. I simply don't know. Like, I like to think that I know a fair bit about Dragon Ball and anime in general, but I obviously don't have answers for anything, so I don't know which ability would be the stronger one in the case of these two abilities clashing. My gut feeling makes me want to think that all fiction would still win, but I cannot prove that, so I'm not going to go in depth on a hunch right now, right? But with the knowledge that I have, I am going to be placing him in the top tier of my tier list alongside Ajimu, because Kumagawa was just born different. But yeah, what do you guys think? Did I make some good points during this video, or do you think I am completely full of shit? Either way, just let me know in the comments down below. And with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching today's video. As per usual, I truly do appreciate every single viewer that takes the time out of the day to watch my content. It makes me very happy to know that even a handful of people just enjoys the content I produce. It really does make me happy because, I'm providing something which entertains people, and that's really all I could ask for when making videos. So if you would like to see more of my content in the future, please consider clicking the subscribe button and turning on all notifications for my channel. Work hard, study well, and eat and sleep plenty, and I will see you all again in the next video. Peace out.